Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Daily Gwei Refuel, where I recap the latest news in the Ethereum ecosystem. I'm your host, Anthony Sassano, and today's the 5th of July, 2021. Alright everyone, let's get into the news from the weekend. So actually just before we do that, on Friday I published this piece in DeFi Pulse's Yield Farm newsletter called The Bullish Case for Governance Tokens. Now, this is behind a paywall right now. You will have to kind of subscribe to the Yield Farmer newsletter, but it will be available for free later on this week, and I'll definitely share that on Twitter once it's available. But if you do have a Yield Farmer subscription or you want to subscribe to it, you'll be able to read this. And I mean, I'm pretty proud of the piece. I thought it was pretty convincing myself, mind you, but something that I've, outside of the Daily Gwei newsletter for once, but I had a good time kind of writing it. And I thank DeFi Pulse for giving me the opportunity to put it together as well. So if you haven't read it yet, definitely recommend it. But you can wait for the free version to come out if you don't want to subscribe later on this week. So I meant to talk about this last week, actually. I think I did, but I think I was not confused, but wasn't sure when this was going to happen. But I put out a tweet kind of yesterday where I said, a couple of hours ago, where I said the mainnet date or block number for London, which contains the IP 1559, is expected to be discussed and possibly announced at this week's Ethereum Core Devs meeting, which is taking place on July 9th at 1400 UTC here, which is 2 p.m. UTC. Now, this is basically the regular all core devs kind of meeting that they do every couple of weeks. There's an agenda. I forgot to link it in my tweet, but it's somewhere in my Chrome tab somewhere. Basically, yeah, it's on the agenda, right, to discuss. And, my guess would be if we get the earliest date, the earliest it's going to be is August 4th. And then after that, it'll be in weeks after that. So if it's not August 4th, it'll be August 11th. If not, then August 18th. You get the idea. I'm hopeful that it's going to be August 4th, considering that we've had two testnet deployments of London so far, and it's gone extremely smoothly, obviously on Rinkeby and Gurley there. And then we have, Ropsten and Gurley, and then we have Rinkeby happening in the next couple of days. And if that goes smoothly, I see no reason to not do an August 4th mainnet date. Now, that would be really, really cool, really hype. But even still, I've said this multiple times on the refuel, where I basically said that even if the date was to happen on August 11th or even August 18th, I really don't think it's a big deal. I don't think the market's going to care. I don't think many people are going to care at all. I think, we've waited so long for it. As I've said every time, it's just not a huge deal. Plus, we'd rather get it right, and we'd rather, the core devs and researchers feel comfortable with deploying it before doing so. And that's basically it. It's funny because I always think about Ethereum governance and how it all plays out. And, sometimes I get some troll comments when I say things like this, where people are like, oh, Ethereum's centralized because the core devs can decide when to upgrade the network. It's like, well, no. The core devs don't decide when to upgrade the network. They just set a block number or a mainnet date block number that they're comfortable with for the upgrade to go through. But London and all the EIPs within it, obviously EIP 1559 being the major one, went through 2+ years of scrutiny. So it's not like the core devs just woke up one day and said, okay, well, we want to put 1559 on mainnet. It's going to happen within a month. If you don't like it, then piss off, we're in control. That's not what happened at all. And I know a lot of you listening to the refuel don't fall into this bucket. I hope all of you don't fall into this bucket, because it is not one that I think that it's not an intellectual bucket to be in, because I showed the other day, Andrew put together, or CyberHokey I showed a tweet of the Ethereum governance process. He put together a really nice flow chart there, and it was huge. I mean, I couldn't even show it all in the video because it was so big. And that's basically how it works, and it's very messy. Don't get me wrong, it's frustrating, it's messy, it's definitely something that I kind of view on, and I'm like, ugh, we could literally fix all of these problems if Ethereum was just centralized. And when I think about that, it's even more hilarious. If you think about pretty much every problem within crypto, it can be solved with centralization. If you want to solve anything, just add a sprinkle of centralization to it, and you've got the solution. But the whole point is that we're trying to solve these problems without doing that. So from that perspective, we don't want to centralize Ethereum's governance process. We want it to be like this. And as frustrating as it was that it took EIP 1559 2+ years to get to mainnet, it is still an incredible achievement in my mind that we got such a major upgrade onto mainnet. I mean, obviously it's not happened yet, but it's going to happen soon. Given there was a lot of pushback on it originally, there was a lot of people saying, oh well, we need to do thorough testing on this because it's such a major change. which is fine. But if you imagine something like this in like a small, I guess, like, I wouldn't say like a large corporate, but like maybe a small to medium sized corporate business, this wouldn't have taken 2 years to happen because that's centralized, right? It would have happened very, very quickly. You would have had a project manager assigned to it. They would have managed it all. They would have fed it up the chain. And then obviously they would have had like, whoever's up the chain say, yes, okay, let's do this. And there's obviously hierarchy still in corporate environments, but it's different. It's very, very centralized. Whereas within Ethereum, we have to get like community consensus across pretty much the majority of the ecosystem before the ecosystem would be happy putting 1559 in. And there are a lot of people who, well, maybe not a lot, but there is definitely some people that don't want 1559 going in, and they think it's bad for the network. They think that burning ETH is bad, and that's fine. It's fine for them to voice their opinion. But at the end of the day, the super majority of the network sets what Ethereum is. And if you're part of the minority, then you have the choice to either just go along with the majority, or you can kind of like fork off into your own network and try to build up your own ecosystem from there. Now, in saying that, within Ethereum, it's very hard to do that, obviously, because there's a lot of dependencies. The Ethereum network is sprawling. It is not just the blockchain, but it's all the apps on top of it, all the assets and things like that. So I think I spoke about this at length in one of the refuels of, it's probably a couple months back now, where I basically described how Ethereum is essentially unforkable at this point. And I don't know what that's going to hold for the future. I don't know what's going to happen in a truly contentious kind of time where, it goes even beyond what happened with ProgPower. For those of you who were around for that last year, ProgPower is extremely contentious. But the thing is that that didn't get very far along, I don't think. I think that got to a point where it basically hard stopped, and we kind of like killed it off as a community because we were like, this is not something we want. But there's inevitably going to be other kind of governance challenges. There's going to be people trying to capture governance. So it's going to be interesting to see how the Ethereum ecosystem manages that, considering there's so many dependencies on top of it now. And Ethereum as a network is not only defined by the, I guess, like full nodes and the economic nodes and things like the Bitcoin community network is defined by the same things, but it's also defined by its rich app layer that sits on top of the network itself. So it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. But anyway, I'm looking forward to this week's core devs meeting to see if they give a date on there. They may not even give a date. Maybe they think, oh, okay, we want to kind of like wait it out. I suspect that they're going to give a date, and as I said, like, I'm going to assign a probability of maybe like 80% it being August 4th, and then 100% by August 14th. I don't see them extending that out to August 21st. It seems very, very long, and that's obviously dependent on the final testnet going well. If for some reason Rinkeby blows up with London, then it's definitely not happening on August 4th, let me tell you that much. But there's no reason to believe it will, considering the last two testnets went off without a hitch. So another kind of a bit of chatter over, I guess, like the weekend was around MEV and Bitcoiners for some reason discovering that MEV is a thing on Ethereum after how many months or even a year plus at this point that the Ethereum ecosystem as a whole has been like very focused on it. And I think 2+ years where a lot of the top researchers have been really deep down into the MEV kind of rabbit hole here. But for some reason, Bitcoin has just discovered it now. And I say for some reason, but I know the reason. It's because they don't pay attention to anything Ethereum unless it's fed to them through some kind of watered down narrative machine. But anyway, I won't go on a rant about that. What I did want to talk about is how ironic it was that they started talking about MEV, and there was this massive thread that I'm not gonna go through. I'm sure you'll know which one I'm talking about. That someone, Bitcoin Maximus, of course, was just calling Ethereum broken because of MEV. And the grand irony was that he posted that thread while there was an MEV summit going on with Ethereum's top researchers. It was 8 hours plus of talks and videos and the Ethereum ecosystem coming together and saying, we know MEV is an issue, let's fix it, like let's work on it, let's see what we can do with it. And it's not just that kind of like summit, it's been basically years of research and development. We had Flashbots come out as a kind of like as a culmination of a lot of that research that's helping with a lot of things, and there's more eyes on the MEV ecosystem than there ever has been. There's more people talking about it, more people getting involved, and just the irony of a Bitcoiner saying Ethereum is broken because of MEV, because they just figured out what MEV was, or they just became aware of it now, is hilarious to me. But enough on that topic. There were two other threads about this. One from Aldogo Diablo here, or Fubalubulu. I think that's how you say his name. I love saying it. Where he says, TradFi solves MEV by making it illegal. With DeFi, we are trying to find different ways to avoid MEV without regulations and laws which break. MEV is inherent to any system where a profit can be made from privileged access to a system's operation. No blockchain has solved MEV. Now, this goes back to what I was saying before about how, if we just introduce centralization, that being regulations and laws, into the Ethereum ecosystem, we could solve MEV too. But in saying that, on top of this, TradFi technically, yes, does make MEV kind of like illegal in some sense, but it also makes it even more privileged than what kind of like Ethereum does. Ethereum doesn't kind of give any one set of people like specific privilege or rights to MEV. They basically, anyone can do MEV on Ethereum. There's no central body saying, okay, well, only you can do it and only you can do it. It's obviously skill-based and, it's very sophisticated, but it's still open to anyone. Whereas within TradFi, and as state.eth notes here, MEV is actually very legal, but it basically goes to like institutions and businesses because, for example, Robinhood outsources its MEV extraction by selling its order flow to Citadel, which is a big trading firm, which promptly proceeds to front run it. So, I mean, some of it's illegal, a lot of it can be legal, but it just depends on like what kind of lens you're looking through it. I mean, it's probably illegal for non-accredited investors or for individuals to do it. You won't be able to kind of do it like front running and spoofing and all that sort of stuff on exchanges. If you get caught doing that as an individual and not part of the normal kind of like flow of things, then you're definitely going to get stinged for that. You're going to either get like a fine, banned from the platform, or in the worst case, arrested or taken to court in some way. So that's another thing to consider, is that like no blockchain has solved MEV. TradFi solves it by centralizing, and we are trying to find different ways to avoid MEV in a decentralized fashion. And that's exactly what that summit was for. And you can go check out that summit. It's just like MEV.WTF. I think I mentioned it on last week's Refuel. But this is the power of an open ecosystem, right? And this is the power of Ethereum and what I've spoken about so many times before. In Ethereum, we don't just brush our problems under the rug. We talk about them very openly. From what I've seen, no one is ignoring MEV. No one that I know, at least. No one is saying, oh, it's just going to go away on its own. We're treating this like the serious problem that it is, and we're trying to fix it or at least minimize it as much as possible. And you've seen that in many different forms. And the MEV summit videos do a very good job of breaking this down. I managed to watch some of them over the weekend. They were really informative and really educational. So I highly recommend going and kind of viewing those as well. But on that note as well, it's just, again, the irony with Bitcoin is that they actually do sweep problems under the rug, and they don't actually fix things that are big problems in Bitcoin. And the biggest one to me is the dwindling security budget of Bitcoin. Because with Bitcoin, every 4 years there's the halvening, right? And that basically reduces Bitcoin's security budget by half. Like the BTC block subsidy goes down by half. And if the fee revenue or price doesn't make up for that, then obviously it becomes less profitable to mine and less miners are on the network and blah, blah, blah. You know the rest there. So long term, I think that's a huge issue for Bitcoin. I don't think their free revenue is going to make up for the block reward. And I don't think the price is going to go up as much as it needs to make up for that. But that's a kind of whole nother discussion there. The last kind of thing that I wanted to cover with got to do with MEVs from Jacob here, this is an awesome tweet thread. It's a longer thread here, but basically the first tweet says, whether it's MEV, performance of Uniswap v3, or economic exploits, let's take a minute to recognize that a transparent financial system means that people all around the world with nothing more than an internet connection can openly examine flaws and collectively work to resolve it. This whole thread is amazing. I loved this thread. And that's just a very powerful tweet because I think a lot of people take the transparency in DeFi for granted and how quickly things can get fixed, solved, worked on, developed, upgraded. It takes so much less time than it does in TradFi. And this, this tweet from Jacob kind of encapsulates that, where he says, think about how incredible it is that less than 24 hours after an exploit, there are dozens of Twitter threads, postmortems, and blog articles flushed with data revealing the precise flaw. What does that look like in TradFi? A back-page Bloomberg article 2 years after the event. And this is so true. Like, I hadn't even really thought about this too deeply before, but this thread from Jacob kind of had my mind kind of racing here. Really, when you look at all the exploits that happen in TradFi or anything, it comes out normally in kind of like some court documents that are made public because the state is suing some kind of like financial institution for something or kind of like doing an audit of them. It takes such a long time for any of this stuff to come out in the traditional finance world. But because everything is hyper transparent within Ethereum, as soon as something happens, like as he said, like as soon as an exploit happens within DeFi, in less than 24 hours, we have so much information about it already. And everyone that wants to can can look at that information, learn from it, see what they did wrong, see what not to do, kind of warn users about it, and kind of like the education of the ecosystem just rapidly goes up. And I guess this is just why, another reason why DeFi is going to kill traditional finance. And they've already lost. Like in my mind, they lost like a while ago. But it's obviously going to take some time to kind of take over traditional finance. But this is just one of the many reasons why they've lost. There is no way that once regulatory bodies clue into this, in nation states are going to think to themselves, well, we don't want this. And I know people say, oh, well, we're trying to build this stuff so it doesn't get regulated. But as I've said before on the Refuel, there's a lot of, middlemen, or not middlemen, but like proxies that are going to sit between DeFi and the end user that people are just going to use because of convenience. And that's fine. But those entities are going to be regulated. So if the governments and nation states see that, okay, well, we can actually, have better visibility over this stuff, and we can ensure safety and security much easier than the traditional finance system, then they're actually going to kind of usher in this a lot faster than we think. And it's funny because you think about it like a Trojan horse, where we have DeFi sitting in the horse and we dress it up with some kind of nice, transparency and security. But really what we're doing is we're just integrating DeFi with the rest of the financial system and overtaking the financial system. So I think that's kind of like the way it works there. But yeah, I suggest going and reading this whole thread. It's one of my favorite threads in a long time, actually. Like, it just got me thinking about so many different things, and I was kind of buzzing about it on the weekend. So definitely go check it out. So Ben Edgington posted his latest What's New in ETH2 newsletter, packed full of updates. And I wanted to focus on one thing, was this editorial that he put together, where he said that I discussed how Pry Labs is announced last week, I think, or maybe the week before, that they're dropping kind of the ETH2 terminology from their, I guess, like blog posts and GitHub and things like that. And I discussed how last week, I think I said that I get it, obviously, because it's all one Ethereum, and ETH2 might be considered kind of like harmful as Ben here because it confuses people. But, Ben argues that it's been part of, I guess, the Ethereum consciousness for such a long time now, and it's a really great way to differentiate between, I guess, like ETH1 and ETH2, and it's just a thing that's gone very far, like a term that's gone very far, and everyone is familiar with it and knows it. And I agree with him, to be honest. I don't think that I'll be dropping it anytime soon. I think that the only real time that we should drop it is when, I guess, like we merge ETH1 into ETH2, because then we can just call it Ethereum. And then from then on, it's just fine. Like, everyone's on the same page of Ethereum. There's no more needing to split it up into ETH1 and ETH2. So yeah, I just wanted to quickly mention that. But also, in this newsletter, he's got his usual upgrades around the Beacon chain, the upgrade coming to the Beacon chain, the first one, Alter, which is going to be deployed to the Paramount testnet by the end of July. And we'll probably see this in maybe August, as he's saying here, on mainnet, on the Beacon chain. There's some great explainers out here where he links to a bunch of different blog posts, media posts, research, all the regular stuff here. So definitely go check this out. And it's at eth2.news for the permalink. And if you haven't subscribed yet, you can if you head here. So Andre dropped a bunch of different projects on Twitter over the weekend, and they're not full projects. It's just code for the ones that he was working on. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of them. So the first one is called LevX, which is leveraged on-chain spot perpetuals with any collateral as margin. And then he says this one has an unpatched exploit, so be careful. So obviously very raw code here. The second one is protection markets, which is an on-chain pay-as-you-go insurance with dynamic pricing based on utilization, supply, demand. Anyone can create any protection market. The code provided ensures Uniswap, SushiSwap, impermanent loss. Protection there. Aave Delegate, which leverages Aave's native credit delegation to easily integrate users' available debt into any product. Below example is Yearn Vaults, but can be anything. Curve Gauge Metapool, where he says this one is copyrighted but good for inspiration. New Metapool that natively earns CRV rewards for being an LP. Auto stakes LP tokens into the gauge and distributes CRV rewards to LPs. Easy way to collect CRV rewards without a gauge. And then finally, and this is the one he's actually going to be personally releasing, Fixed Forex, which is the one I covered last week. So I won't go into details about this now. Basically a decentralized kind of foreign exchange market. What I wanted to focus on was just how cool it is that Andre is basically open sourcing, putting out all of this code for people to create projects out of if they want to. Like, he's just built it and being like, okay, I don't want to kind of like turn it into a real app. I don't want to have to manage it. Like, obviously he's very busy as it is. So he's just giving it to the world for free. And this, again, is another huge advantage of Ethereum, of DeFi over the traditional system, is you have people like this just giving away stuff for free. And who knows? One of these products could go on to become the next $1 billion DeFi protocol. And it can happen very easily too. It's not like you have to basically take a gamble here, or it's it's not like it's a gamble at the end of the day. It's definitely something that can happen. We've seen it happen plenty of times before within DeFi. So yeah. Anyway, if you want to check out all of these projects, they'll be linked in the YouTube description. I think it's just code for now. I don't think you'll actually be able to see any kind of like UIs or anything for them. Yeah, it's literally just links to the smart contract. So if you're a smart contract developer or you can read them, definitely go check it out. But yeah, there's no UIs or anything for these projects just yet. So Willian Mitsuda here announced a new a block explorer called Otterscan, which is an open source, blazingly fast, laptop-friendly Ethereum block explorer built on top of the Erigon Ethereum client. Now, I think this is still in heavy development. It is very alpha, as they say here. It's just code with like a demo video. I'm pretty sure you can run this code locally, but I don't think, yeah, you have to install it and run it locally, but I don't think there's a kind of like a UI for it on the public web or anything just yet. So yeah, if you're familiar with this and you're interested in doing it, you can go and do it. Otherwise, there's a video here which I'm showing on my video that I'm recording right now of what it looks like. It looks very similar to Etherscan, but obviously they're trying to be open source. They're running it on the Erigon client, which I've spoken about before. And honestly, the more block explorers, the better. I love Etherscan, but I think that the community or that the ecosystem is still definitely very too centralized around Etherscan. I would like to see more block explorers, particularly open source ones that anyone can run, kind of be put out there, because a lot of people are blind without Etherscan. We don't want that. We don't want a central point of failure in Etherscan, and they don't want that either. Like, don't get me wrong, they're an awesome team. It's just that they outbuild every other block explorer, so everyone just uses them. And they also make block explorers for other kind of like chains, not just Ethereum, as I've discussed before. But yeah, still cool to see this from William here. I'm really excited to kind of like use this once there's an easier to install, kind of like maybe an executable or something like that on my Windows machine, rather than a bunch of, I guess, like manual installation. And obviously it's still in an early alpha phase, so there's going to be bugs and things like that, but you can go check it out for yourself if you'd like. So Samuel from Rari Capital put out some free alpha the other day, where he's got two links here, where he says, follow token lists to see who is ready for layer 2. Now, you can see here, this is the Arbitrum token list, and you can see which projects are already on layer 2. So you have Alchemy, which is the infrastructure. Is this the infrastructure? Or maybe it's a project that I don't know of that's called Alchemy. But anyway, they're here. Balance is here. Capital Finance. I'm just going to go down the list here. Cream, Curve. What other ones? Gnosis, Graph, obviously, Chainlink, McDex, Maker. So yeah, I mean, like, when you kind of look at these things, you can kind of see which projects are either like planning to or have already kind of deployed, like Uniswap, of course, to Arbitrum, USDC. So yeah, Raft Bitcoin's on there, of course, and there's a bunch of other ones like Yearn Finance too. So really cool to see that. And then Optimism's a bit bare. It's just got synthetics here right now. But I do think there's other projects deployed there. I just don't think that they've probably deployed their token just yet. I think definitely Uniswap would be on there by now, I believe. But yeah, we'll have to see. I'm hoping July is a big month for these layer 2s. Like, I know that I keep talking about them. I know that I keep teasing them. I know they're coming soon. But I think that Arbitrum went the right kind of path by not giving a mainnet date. They've delivered on their dev mainnet, but not giving a public mainnet date. And same with Optimism. They just said July. But if they miss July, I mean, God, just, dates. It's dates and software engineering, name a more iconic couple at the end of the day. So yeah, I still have hope that July is going to be a nice big month, but it's been good that the gas fees are relatively cheap on Ethereum anyway. So it's not like this is like super urgent at the moment. It's definitely very nice to be able to do some 5 Gwei DEX trades over the weekend, rather than having to I kind of like do it for like 50 Gwei back, just a couple months ago. So, but still, long term, obviously, we still need layer 2. So I'm hoping in July we get the either Arbitrum or Optimism going live with a public mainnet here. So Noah here put out a screenshot of basically an email that was sent to attendees in a Zoom call called Next Steps in Institutional DeFi. And this screenshot details what's called Aave Pro. And what Aave Pro is, it's basically using a battle-tested and exclusively audited V2 smart contract system that adds a layer of whitelisting so that only KYC participants can access the Aave Pro pool. So what that means is that Aave Pro, I mean, is basically a kind of like a solution for institutions to use to access, I guess, liquidity on Aave. Now, this is going to be very similar, I guess, to Compound's treasury product that I discussed last week, where it's definitely going to be very centralized, KYC, regulated, all that sort of stuff that institutions need. But you know what I wanted to go through is kind of like all the different points here and how they kind of like differ to the public Aave protocol. So the second point is initially the Aave Pro liquidity pool will consist of only 4 assets: Bitcoin, Ethereum, USDC, and Aave, as those are the ones that institutional demand is concentrated on right now. The Aave Pro liquidity pool will be segregated from other Aave liquidity pools. For example, the Aave V2 market and the Aave Polygon market. So this is, yeah, as the set states here, totally separate to the public Aave markets. There's not going to be overlap here. You're not going to have to worry about it. There's no KYC coming to the public pools or anything like that. The next point, Aave Pro participants will be entities such as institutions, corporates, and fintechs that will be KYC'd and onboarded by Fireblocks, which is a solution that services these kinds of clients. Second last point here, Fireblocks will also implement AML compliance and anti-fraud controls on this market. So, as I said, this is something that institutions need before they can play with this sort of stuff. So this is a necessary evil. But the final point is the one that's most interesting. Aave Pro will be decentralized and governed by Aave governance. So Aave token holders will still be able to govern this new Aave Pro pool. I thought that was interesting because what happens when they kind of do something that the institutions don't like or the institutions don't agree with, or the institutions can't kind of like get on board with because of some kind of regulations? I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. But I'm glad to see that it's still going to be part of the Aave kind of like family and the Aave kind of like a governance system. And it's going to be very interesting to see how that plays out. I'm not sure if Compound Treasury falls under the same kind of scope where comp token holders have governance over that. I don't think they said anything about that, but it'll be interesting to see how it plays out for Aave and then how it plays out for Compound as well. So yeah, I mean, this is huge news, obviously. As I said, the institution of DeFi is just getting started. We're going to see more and more of this happening over the coming months, and I don't think it takes away from the decentralized nature of the public pools and everything like that. I think these KYC, regulated, blah, 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 whatever pools are fine. They're a necessary evil, and this is how you get the institutional capital into DeFi. So Trent posted about the Beacon book again here, where he says you can sign up to this email list to get important updates about the Beacon book. Now, I've spoken about this in plenty of times. I ran a giveaway in the Daily Gwei Discord. Congrats to the winner there. That they get a free book here, but they're planning to launch the book in 2 weeks. There's going to be a limited amount of these books. I don't know the exact number, but it's definitely not going to be limited amounts here. And it's going to be like a bidding system, I believe, like an auction system. But if you want to get your hands on one, I definitely do. You can go to this email list, to this doc here to sign up to the email list, and you'll get emails about when the auctions kind of launch, when they're closing, all that good stuff. I definitely expect this to make some noise. This is an amazing book. I mean, I saw some screenshots of it on Twitter and things like that, and I spoke to Trent about it. It is the quintessential book if you want to be able to get a behind-the-scenes look at the ETH2 research and development, how it all came together, and kind of like what it looks like in the future. Right, final shout out here is for the Ethereum Name Service, who are looking for people for 2 positions right now: a governance lead and integrations lead. If you want to be part of the ENS team or want to help the Ethereum Name Service and work with them, this is definitely 2 roles that I think would be very interesting: governance lead and integrations lead. I mean, ENS needs to be integrated with absolutely everything, so you'd have your work cut out for you with integrations. Governance, I'm not sure what this kind of like entails. They do detail it here where they say this person must have first-hand experience with DAOs and the governance of other projects. But the funny thing is that right now ENS is I think like a 5 of 7 multi-sig or something like that. That's their governance. But what would happen if they are they going to issue a token? Like, is there going to be an ENS token to this DAO, or is the DAO just going to be some kind of like on-chain thing that's linked to people's ENS names and stuff like that? I don't know what it's going to kind of look like, but definitely if they're looking for, I guess, like someone that has experience with DAOs, it's going to be interesting. So if you want to apply for either of these roles, you can definitely check out this thread and kind of, I think you just reach out to them on Twitter here. But anyway, that's it for today's episode, I think. So yes, thank you everyone for listening and watching. Be sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. Give that video a thumbs up, subscribe to the newsletter, join the Discord channel, and I'll catch you all tomorrow. Thanks everyone.